Hi, this is Winde with a COVID-19 update on where we are in the Western Cape. So quite a few weeks ago, when we saw this virus spreading across the world, we already started with some of our preparatory work where we'd identified certain hospitals. We'd already had some work happening. We'd already called our Joint Operations Command into being. They were already meeting regularly. And even, in fact, before we'd even had a case, they'd already activated themselves as a 24/7 Joint Operations Command. Probably a week before our initial case, we'd already set up our top management meeting where all of our departments would meet and discuss their preparedness for this virus as we saw it spreading across the Northern Hemisphere. And then I'll never forget, on the 11th of March, we asked the media to come and have a look at our preparedness at Berg Hospital, and just to go and show them the wards, the quarantine facilities, the ICU facilities, and how we would be dealing with COVID-19 as a province. And that day was the day that we had our first case. I still remember standing in front of all of the media outside the hospital, and suddenly the narrative changed. It changed from preparedness to we actually have a case. And a short while later, here we are today in lockdown as a country. And I must say that I think that preparedness that we put in place as a province, initially, I remember only 5 work streams, developed into 7, then 8, and now 10 work streams. And these streams have been working day and night since that first case specifically. And it's really nice to see how those actions are helping not only in our province, but helping in South Africa too. And of course, maybe to mention a couple of them, I think in the health space, really doing the work, and we will be going public this week on some of our modeling, where we've been doing modeling, working with the private sector as well, but looking at our universities, linking through the World Health Organization. What does COVID-19 look like week after week over the next few months? So when is our peak, and how many infections should we be having that week? And sad to say, how many deaths will there be that week, and what kind of capacity do we have? And we know we're going to have to build a lot more capacity. We'll also be announcing that this week on field hospitals and extra beds in the system that are not in hospitals at the moment. Also in our existing hospitals, how certain wings get turned into COVID-19 wings, how we expand our ICU beds, because we have, even between the private sector and the public sector, bearing in mind those models, we do not have sufficient ICU beds. So how are we creating new ICU beds? Then across to, from human settlements, looking at decanting, public works out there, looking at properties, partnering with the private sector, turning hotels into quarantine facilities and sites, so that if you come from overseas, you can be quarantined, or even more importantly, you live in a densely populated informal settlement in one of our towns or city in the province, and you now have symptoms, how we pull you out, test you, but enable you to actually be removed from community so that you don't create further infections. The tracking and tracing, and how we take those people into quarantine while we wait to see if they are positive or negative. So really lots and lots of work happening, down to finding spaces for the homeless, finding spaces for people who are foreign nationals. You would have known that we had people in our churches, people living on our streets that were foreign nationals looking to go to other countries, but during COVID-19 everything's locked down, so spaces for them, spaces for the homeless people, making sure that they also, with separation, we've got already so many beds in shelters, but what else is there? How do we create more spaces, and specifically the city, but our municipalities? And then I think the big thing for us is the economy, and the work that's starting now. The first part in the economy was how we closed down the economy and enabled some of those events, first of all, but then businesses to close down, but also enabled the businesses that were seen as essential, so that they got their permitting, that people were allowed to travel, linked through to policing. And it's just every single one of these streams. Maybe I should end off with fake news. And this last weekend, lots of fake news going out and how it's being dealt with, reported through the Joint Operation Command, linking it through to SAPs and investigations on a Sunday, and on a Monday they're finalizing, and hopefully we get an arrest of one of the fake news producers. And that'll be really good to see. So many of these work streams, reporting every single day. There's the Prov joints where the police report every morning early, the JOC reports every morning early. It all comes together in a 10 o'clock meeting every single day. And then Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays all ends up in a 12:30 cabinet meeting, so that if decisions have to be made, like we made last week of Section 25 of the Constitution, which allows us for emergency spending, so that you saw over the weekend, even late into a Friday night, Treasury along with the Education Department, Social Development Department, and we get an extra 53 million rand going into food security, because right now people aren't earning a wage or a salary at the end of the month or at the end of the week and not able to put food on the table, and another 53 million going into the existing programs, where hundreds of thousands of meals are being delivered every single day across this province via NGOs and our departments. Amazing work that happens. And so really it's how all the nuts and bolts come together in this big plan, in this management system that we are all operating in, with every department, every minister, every HOD, and basically every citizen playing their part in a way somehow. Maybe it's just locked up at home and adhering to the rules, or perhaps it's an essential worker and every night people coming out on their balconies or coming out in their yards and making a huge noise, singing the national anthem, just thanking those amazing people that are on the front line helping us to nail this coronavirus, this COVID-19. So there's a bit of a sum up of what we're busy with, and hopefully we'll be also putting out a much more detailed press release as a government later this week.